Hello and welcome. This is a video for those of you who are new to NeoVim or intermediate users and who want to get into data science. Or you are already doing data science in another IDE and you want to set NeoVim up for doing data sciencey stuff. And the reason I'm doing this video now is, let me switch back to my stream setup, is that TJ de Vries, NeoVim core contributor, recently updated his kickstart.nvim repository. And I'm pretty sure there will also be a video coming up by him soon, or I'm assuming by the time this goes live, it will already be up. So let's go watch that first and then come back here so you know how Kickstart works. Just in brief, it's a very simple, it's not like a full-on NeoVim distribution with like all the plugins that you need, but it's a very good starting point that you can work through line by line to understand how configuring NeoVim works. And I want to take the starting point with you and add just the bare minimum of plugins we need to get it working with Python and Quarto, so we can write interactive documents and we can write notebooks and data science stuff in there, right? So head over to TJ's channel, watch this video, then come back here, or maybe you're even coming from this video, then just stay here and watch the video now. And what I want to do is I want to actually fork this so I can make some changes and then show them to you later, and you can refer to those after the video. Okay, and now we have a fork. We can go to our code, copy this part, and go into git, clone in our just home directory. I want to clone this into .config. And I want to be cloning this into, let's call it Kickstarter. Now, if I open nvim, it will still open my normal nvim configuration, but I can set an environment variable called nvim app name that will tell nvim where to look for the configuration. And this allows me to have multiple configurations running side by side. So in your case, you might not even need to do this. You can just clone directly into config/nvim. In my case, I need this. So now if I open nvim, should have called it Kickstarter. Now the Kickstarter configuration is doing its magic. It's installing all the plugins, color schemes, even things like the Lua language server, Mason. Oh, by the way, you should see on this side that there's now the keys that I'm pressing coming up. Let's see how it looks like if we open a Quarto document. So for those of you who don't know, Quarto is a notebook style format where you can write plain text markdown document with code embedded. So let's head into my teaching folder for Quarto and make a new example. So let's put some Python code in here. But right as we type, we realize, well, it would be nice to have code completion for Python, right? So we don't have that right now. And let's search for servers, I believe. And here we go. And it's already in here. Pyrite is already in here, but it's just commented out. So we just need to activate this. Let's delete this. I believe there would also be a comment, a plugin for uncommenting GCC. Yeah. Go comment. We uncommented this, which means the next time we open it, it should install the language server. You see it in the bottom next to my window. That Mason has now installed the Pyrite language server. And that means, no, it does not mean. Let's add it again just to make sure. Yeah, now we actually get hover completion. If we press Shift K, we can go to definition using GD, and I can type and I get auto completion for stuff. In the Kickstarter configuration, we accept it with Control Y. Now let's open a Quarto file. We have our markdown and we have our Python code. Two things we noticed: the indentation is a bit wild. We're getting like 8 spaces, and this is because the default shift width is 8 spaces, and it is not correctly set for Quarto. We can fix this, and also we don't get auto completion here. So those are two things we want to fix. Let's do this right now. Let's exit, go into init, And the first thing we want to do is go to like the options and just somewhere in here set the default shift width to something like, let's go with 2. Actually, I prefer 2. But of course, there's also a plugin that sets this based on an editor config file, and so it's correctly set for each project, which is very helpful if you are working with collaborators. And let's go here. We wanted to add auto-completion. Right. So let's get into all the Quarto stuff. So this is the first plugin we want to add. So we need a new section here. This is the plugin we want to add. We do want to configure it by calling it setup method, but we don't want to call the setup method manually like we do in the example. We can also just pass opts, which is the options being passed to the setup method, as just an empty table, which means we just use the default options. And I think we're fine with the default options. Now, Quarto does depend on a bunch of plugins. Most of them are already installed here, but notably we still need the otter.nvim plugin to get us code completion for embedded languages. And because it's a bunch of moving pieces you need for data science, I have this full-on Quarto NVIM Kickstarter configuration to show you like a lot of things you can do, but it's a bit more involved than just this smaller Kickstarter configuration, which is why I'm doing this video, to show you just the bare minimum of pieces. So if you want to learn more, you can always go to the Quarto NVIM Kickstarter, because this is the configuration I also use day to day in my work. But without having to look through this whole thing, let's just use the bare minimum of what we need, and this is the Otter NVIM plugin. The other plugins are actually already configured in here. So we set dependencies. I forgot that it's always Ctrl-Y to accept this. And let's paste it in here. And we also want to configure it using the default options. Now there's one more thing we want to do, because for Otter NVIM, do I have it in here already? Yes. We do need to tell otter.nvim that it can register for our completion provider NVIM, or for our completion engine NVIM CMP as a provider. So NVIM CMP should have a sources table. There we go. Let's copy this. CI quotation marks and put Otter in here. And we're good to go. Just save this. It is installing the plugins. Looking good. And we get hover completion here. We can get code completion here. We can go to definition if it's like somewhere else, like in the Python standard library, we get sent there. Let me actually show you what Quarto does. Let's go Quarto preview. And what it does for us is it opens a new tab in here to just run it from the command line. And now we see a Quarto example where we have some code that is being executed, and we see the output of the code right underneath. And this is nice. If, for example, we have, let's make just some random numbers, and let's call it x, np.random. I forget about Ctrl-Y. Maybe I should get used to it. It's kind of nice to not always get the completion. Let's go wild, go 50. And let's go import matplotlib.pyplot as plt as a standard, and go plt.plotx and save it. And we can see we get the output right underneath here. This is really handy. Okay, now there's two things we want to add. First, we want to have a key binding to add a code chunk. And then we don't want to always save our document and wait for maybe this preview to update, so it has to run all the code. We want to also interactively run code right inside of NeoVim. And for this, what we want to do is we want to first open a terminal with IPython in a split. So we can do stuff in here, right? But we want to be able to send code from here, down into the terminal. So we will configure this as well. And for this, we need an additional plugin. There's one thing I want to fix also, because if I open this Python file, you notice for the first, like, half a second, the editor is unresponsive, and you will also notice that if you have larger documents, it's scrolling a bit weirdly and slower. And we can fix this. There's sort of a bug in the interaction between Pyrite and NVim, where they are fighting over who is responsible for watching documents or changes. We can fix this by going to the capabilities and going for capabilities dot, I believe it is workspace, yes. Did change watch files. There it is, yes. And there is a dynamic registration thing. And we want to just set it to false. Now we actually only need to do this for Pyrite, but let's just do it globally for all of them. I have not found any negative side effects of this, but I also have not used it with all languages so far, right? But this is a very simple fix we can do. If we do it now, maybe this fix will become obsolete when either side implements their own fix for it, but now it's immediately here. So we have Pyrite set up correctly now. Okay, go back to our init Lua file. Let's go for key binding, key map. I guess here there are a couple of key maps. Just copy one of these. In normal mode, we want to use, let's say, I use matter I, which is the Alt key, left Alt, and insert, and which sounds for me like a good key binding. And what I want to do is first go into insert mode because we're in normal mode. Add these 3 backticks, then a Python. Also, I like the way TJ goes with these to highlight the keys you want to remember for this actually. Let's open our Quarto file, Alt-I, and we can insert a Python chunk. That's very handy. Maybe we even want to be able to do this in insert mode as well. In which case we can just tell this key binding that it works for normal and insert mode. But just in case, we just add an escape before, which means if we are in insert mode, we get back into normal mode and then it works the same. If we are already in normal mode, it's just another escape. So we're still in normal mode. And now it should work in both insert and normal mode. So another key binding we want is a key binding to make a new terminal. So let's make this using leader CI for IPython, code IPython. That's my way of thinking about it. And what we want to do is split, followed by a terminal. I want in this new split make a new terminal with IPython in it. Let's save this, test it out. Leader CI, we have an IPython terminal in here. We want to add the enter at the end so we don't have to type this manually. Double escape to switch back here. Okay. 2 things we want to change. We want to get rid of the line numbers in the terminal, and we want to be able to send code. So now right underneath here, there's an explanation for auto commands. And actually we want an auto command as well. But we don't want the texting post. We want the term open auto command. Remove line numbers in terminal. kickstart. We want to set the window options. So this is line, no, just number. We can test this by just running lua vim.wo number. Yeah, and it removes the line number, so this is the correct one. And we just call it whenever we open a terminal, just on the window that is being opened. And while we're at it, let's also add the code sending. This we are doing with Vim Slime. Let's go here where we added the plugins. Add another plugin specification. We need this username and repository. It wants all of its configuration to have happened before the editor is completely open, so we don't use, as in some other things, the opts or config thing. We use the init key, and this is a function, a Lua function we can call before anything else happens. So here are the things we want to configure. We want to globally configure the Slime target to be NeoVim, and I also add a function for config in which we can set a keymap. And let's use Alt Enter and call Lua function here. And we are going to do, actually from the Lua function, we're going to call the Vim function. I think it's samcell. And we're going to give this a description. So let's test this out. I'm back into the example file. We got Vim Slime installed. Let's make a new IPython terminal. I forgot to add the enter thing. But still, let's send this code. It will ask us for the job ID. And now we run into a problem because, well, in Python indentation is important. And here we don't actually finish the code block by adding like another blank line, which is annoying, but we can fix this. So we need to do a bit more configuration for IPython here. We want to set Slime Python IPython to 1. And now this function that is being used to correctly configure something for sending code to IPython. It's like an override of the Vim function in the plugin. We want to wrap it in vim.cmd. And we want to have this also happen in Quarto documents. So we just change Python to Quarto here. Now the last thing we want is to be able to tell Slime what actually is a code chunk. And for this, first I want to set the global option of the Slime cell delimiter. And in normal Python files, you can use this sort of magic command syntax to do this and use it in VS Code or Studio as like a notebook style thing in a normal Python file. Sometimes there is space here, sometimes there's not. So let's make this a bit more general by turning it into a space that is maybe there. But in Quarto files, we notice code chunks are delimited by backticks, right? So let's make a new file in a folder called ft plugin, which stands for file type plugins. So this is special configuration that will only be executed whenever we open a Quarto file. So in this case, copy this line, go back here. Now I want to set this buffer locally. So vim.b is like a buffer option. And we just want to set it to 3 backticks. Oh, I forgot one thing again. Here we open a new Python terminal. Let's also hit enter afterwards. Now we can make a new terminal. Go back here, send code, it is correctly pasted in here using this magic pasting thing. Okay, there's a bunch of more things I could show you, like setting up the same thing for R by adding the R language server, or even some advanced configuration I now have in the Quarto NVim Kickstarter, where it automatically switches between Python and R based on what kind of code chunk we're currently in, what is being sent, and it can even use the R package reticulate to use Python code in R, and then you have your variables from R available in Python, and automatically switches between those two. But this is something for another video, so stay tuned, and I'll see you another day.